Every schoolchild knows that the Viking outcast Leif Erikson set foot on American soil long before Christopher Columbus's famous voyage. However, until recently, it remained an unsolved mystery how these Scandinavian seafarers managed to accomplish such a remarkable navigational feat. Questions about whether attempts were made to colonize America and to what extent their unique seafaring skills were passed on to medieval Europe have yet to receive definitive answers. Norwegian researcher Ragnar Fossa, whose knowledge of Viking maritime affairs is unparalleled, expresses deep admiration for these ancient mariners. He notes that the more time he spent aboard their small, open vessels, the greater his respect grew for these people who were exceptionally brave, incredibly intelligent shipbuilders, skilled sailors and navigators, and who also demonstrated excellent organization. In his opinion, they were truly fantastic. Ragnar dedicated the last decade of his life to creating accurate replicas of Viking ships and undertaking circumnavigations. His primary goal was to thoroughly study the seaworthiness of these vessels, their speed, and, of course, the skill required to operate them. This would allow for a better understanding of how the Vikings managed not just to cross the North Atlantic once, but to make such journeys regularly 1,000 years ago. Ship archaeology is a relatively young field in the study of the past. Working in close cooperation with scholars from Viking ship museums located in Norway and Denmark, Ragnar aimed to reproduce the original craft of Viking shipbuilding with maximum precision. A unique feature of Scandinavian shipbuilding from that period is the clinker-built technique. Unlike most modern or ancient vessels where hull planks are joined edge to edge, Viking ships had their planks laid overlapping and then carefully fastened with nails. Notably, the hull planking was created first, and only after that were the ribs inserted, which fundamentally differed from the approaches used in most other shipbuilding traditions. The fleet assembled by Ragnar consists of replicas of 3 different types of vessels. Among them is the Gia, recreated based on the largest Viking ship ever found, dating to approximately 850 AD. This was a raiding vessel, likely once belonging to a king. The second replica is the Oseberg, reproducing a royal yacht from around 800 AD, recognized as the most elegant of Viking ships. The original vessel was designed for sailing in sheltered waters and was never intended for the open sea. The third vessel, Saga Siglar, is an accurate replica of an 11th century Viking merchant ship. Ragnar Fossa, reflecting on his preferences, notes that for another crossing of the North Atlantic, he would choose this Saga Siglar, whereas for participating in the prestigious America's Cup Regatta, his choice would be the Gia, which he describes as a truly magnificent sailing ship. The history of Viking expansion is inextricably linked to the characteristics of the land they inhabited and the circumstances that compelled them to embark on long voyages. Medieval Europe proved powerless against the onslaught of this pagan horde, who masterfully wielded axes and swords. The Vikings showed no mercy to civilians, women, or children during their attacks. Their expeditions reached the southern shores of Spain, and perhaps occasionally even ventured into the Mediterranean Sea. In the 9th century, their power grew to such an extent that they were able to sack London and besiege Paris. They successfully settled parts of Ireland, northern England, and conquered the city of York. Many historians believe that modern research has completely changed established perceptions of the Viking Age in York. Previously, it was thought that Vikings came only to destroy cities. However, new data shows that, on the contrary, they brought new life to these places, organizing them into a network of streets and plots, and erecting churches and buildings, many of which can still be seen today. Property lines established by the Vikings still exist 1,000 years later, testifying to the longevity of their influence. Thus, the Vikings came to York not only as conquerors, but also as traders and merchants, breathing new economic life into the city. From there, they continued their westward movement, reaching the Faroe Islands, Iceland, and Greenland. During these numerous voyages, they became exceptionally skilled seafarers. Researchers are almost certain that the Vikings possessed the ability to determine their latitude, following it in their journeys, and used a sun compass for these purposes. It is also known that they had an excellent understanding of the positions of planets and stars, particularly the North Star, which they might have called the leading star, allowing them to always determine true north. Naturally, in clear weather conditions, They used the sun, moon, and other celestial bodies for navigation. Problems, scientists believe, arose during prolonged periods of bad weather when the sky was obscured, and they could then lose their way. However, paradoxically, this sometimes led to new discoveries. The first person to see Greenland got lost. And similarly, according to tradition, the first person to sight Vinland, America, also strayed off course from Norway to Greenland during a storm. The primary sources of information about these western voyages are the sagas, two of which recount the story of the unpredictable clan of Eric the Red. Their history is a narrative of discoveries driven by violence and exile. Eric's father, accused of murder, was banished from Norway and took his family to Iceland. Eric himself, after a series of fights and killings, was exiled from Iceland, and in 986, he set out to establish a settlement on the island of Greenland. The colony eventually grew to several thousand settlers and maintained a lively trade with Europe for several centuries. Greenland proved to be a rich land, possessing many resources sought after in medieval Europe. These included both prosaic items, such as walrus hide used for ship ropes, and more mysterious ones, like the narwhal tusk, which in medieval Europe was mistakenly believed to be the horn of a unicorn, a deeply mystical and mythical creature. However, the main and most valuable commodity was walrus ivory, obtained from the tusks of walruses inhabiting the more northern waters of Greenland. This served as the primary form of payment for tribute and various fees that the Greenlanders paid to Europe. The Vikings continued their gaze westward, across the Atlantic. According to the saga of the Greenlanders, Bjarni Herjolfsson, while attempting to reach Greenland in 986, drifted off course and accidentally sighted North America. He did not land, but brought knowledge of the new continent's existence back to Greenland. Around 1000 AD, Leif, Eric the Red Sun, decided to journey to this mysterious western land to determine its suitability for colonization. The saga recounts that Leif's expedition first encountered a barren landscape with mountains and glaciers. Leif named this place Helgeland, meaning land of flat stones. Scholars suggest this was Baffin Island. Continuing south, they then landed in a forested area with a gentle shore and wide white beaches. They named this place Markland, or Forest Land, which likely corresponded to Labrador or a region further south. A third land was then discovered, which they named Vinland, and it is around its precise location that the main academic debates rage. To this day, there is no exact data on Vinland's location, other than that it was somewhere south of Labrador. For many years, scholars have actively debated